All right. Hello, everybody. As you can see, we got some familiar faces here. I'm going to let everybody kind of introduce themselves. Obviously, you recognize some of us. Maybe you don't recognize others. But we figure we kind of get together and talk about KISS. So Chris Brophy, and you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Ron, Vinyl Sanctuary.
Pete from Pete CD Vinyl World.
And Aaron Muthalamere.
Awesome. Yeah. So we, the four of us, we definitely, commenting back and forth to each other. We all kind of share the love of hard rock and heavy metal. We share a lot of the same interests, in bands and things like that. And we decided to kind of go for it tonight and talk about KISS. And we're going to concentrate on the first three albums. So Pre-Alive, we're going to talk about the debut, Dressed to Kill, or Hotter Than Hell, and Dressed to Kill, in that order. But we thought what might be kind of cool is to kind of just, talk about how we all got into KISS. So I don't know, does somebody want to start?
I guess I'll start.
All right.
I discovered them kind of early on for me, late for them. I discovered them around 88, 89 or so. I had gotten the single, what was it? The Rock and Roll All Night single, cassette single, and I forget what it had on the other side, but had that, and I'd heard some stuff off of Crazy Crazy Nights. And then they kind of fell away for a while because I had gotten to the more heavy, like brutal kind of stuff throughout the 90s. And then I kind of got back into them when they reissued all their CDs. Remember they had the KISS, the logo on the spine there on the CDs there. Yep, that's it. Those KISS remasters. That's when I got back into them.
Yeah.
Sort of hot and heavy.
All right. Aaron, what about you?
Well, I'd heard about KISS in the 70s, but I never really listened to them. My parents hated them. They thought my dad was he hated the makeup, all that stuff. So, and then later on, I started getting into hard rock metal around the mid 80s. So around Asylum, when I saw Tears Are Falling, Who Wants to Be Lonely, those videos, I really got into KISS. And then I listened to all their 80s stuff first, and then discovered their 70s music after that. And now I love all of it. But I always really love that 80s era too, because it's like their heavy metal era.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did your parents think that they were the knights in Satan's service?
No, they just didn't like them. My dad's more of he never liked them. He doesn't like the fad stuff. So he thought they were. So, but I remember when I was in 5th grade, I had my face painted as Peter Criss, even though I didn't really know who they were too much. So.
Right. That's cool.
Cool thing.
Well, Peter Criss is my favorite. I think, didn't you say the Peter Criss album was your favorite of the solo albums, Aaron, or not?
No, it's Ace.
Oh, it's Ace. Okay, I thought you said. Yeah. I think I
It's
wanted you to say. I think I wanted you to say.
I think you're the only one.
I'm the only guy. Yeah.
I really like the Peter Criss one, though. I do.
Yeah. All right, Pete. What about you?
It's definitely better now than if you heard it, like say back then. You would have been like, oh my god.
I know. I would have been like, this sucks. But now that I listen to Herb Alpert, I'm like, okay, pretty good. So Pete, what about you? How'd you get into KISS?
So actually pretty young. I was 5, 1979. So I distinctly remember hearing like Detroit Rock City, Rock and Roll All Night on the radio. And I probably had seen pictures of them before and thought they were cool. But those two songs are like my earliest memories, which is kind of funny because 1979 was Dynasty. And I don't have any recollection of I Was Made for Loving You or anything. And then my cousin gave me a tape of Destroyer around that time. So that was basically the only album I had for them for years. And a couple of things stand out because I was only like 5, 6, 7. I remember them being on Kids Are People Too when they introduced Eric Carr. remember seeing them on Solid Gold when they played "I" from The Elder.
Nice.
So things like that, I remember and I remember the "I Love It Loud" video was played on some TV show. I remember that, and then once "Lick It Up" came out, that's when I really, really became a diehard fan, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of similar to.
So I never really dropped off from them.
I missed the last thing you said.
I said I never really dropped off from them.
Right.
From like "Lick It Up" on, I was always, except maybe like the Tommy Thayer era. I'm not really. I mean, I follow them and have those albums, but I'm not like,
right,
crazy about the last 10 years or so.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm similar to I think Aaron had mentioned getting into them in the 80s and then kind of going backwards. I sort of got into them, around the same time of like Asylum and Animalize. I mean, the video for Tears Are Falling, it was like all over MTV.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really remember getting into that. And for the longest time, I thought Paul Stanley was the only one who sang with the band.
Yeah, me too.
Well, in the 80s, he didn't have any singles between "I Love It Loud" and "Unholy."
Yeah,
it was all Paul.
Right. So when I first got into them, like, okay, I guess Paul Stanley sings all the songs. And then I started discovering, going back, because I remember there was like a little like store near my house. It was almost like a Walgreens. I don't know if you guys have a Walgreens or whatever near you. It's like a little whatever store, you can get anything there. And they sold cassette tapes. And I remember getting old Kiss cassette tapes and listening to it. And then I heard this other voice. I'm like, who is that? And then I realized, okay, it was Gene Simmons. But I had never heard Gene sing before because I wasn't, of course, a lot of those 80s songs were Paul. And then I kind of got into the older stuff from there. And I didn't see Kiss live until 1997 in Buffalo when they came back for their reunion tour. So that was the first time I ever saw them. But yeah, I mean, like you, Pete, I've kind of been into Kiss. I've never I never was not into Kiss. Once I got into them, it was sort of like, all right, Kiss here. So,
well, back in the 70s, the perception was that Gene was the front man,
right?
Because people that didn't know their music, they knew Gene Simmons. So a lot of people didn't know that Paul was actually the front man as far as like in concert and stuff.
Right. Yeah, and I can definitely see that, associating it with Gene's tongue. So, but all right, well, that's cool. So we're all kind of coming from, we're all similar in age, and I think we're kind of coming from the same background here. So let's get into the debut. Right off the bat, I mean, looking at that cover, it's funny because their makeup changed. From this first cover this was how their makeup was never really like that again, especially Peter.
Yeah, well, Peter didn't want to do his makeup, so he had some makeup artists do it. That was
I remember hearing that.
And he never did it like that again.
It's really intricate, and I don't see Peter Criss wanting to do that every single night. And I don't know, like Ace's, did he always have the silver?
No, his hair was like spray painted for the photo shoot or something.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, not obviously. I mean, some people might not know. Kiss was, they were formed out of the ashes of Wicked Lester. And, a lot of the songs that, Paul and Gene were doing with Wicked Lester ended up appearing on, their first couple albums. And I don't know, have you guys heard the Wicked Lester stuff?
A little bit.
Yeah, I have a cassette of the demos.
Yeah, I have
Love Rock on it.
Yeah, I have a CD of the demos. It's basically like, it's almost like Kiss Light. They sort of mix some R&B sounds in there, and I think Paul Stanley's kind of doing some different stuff with his vocals, but it was sort of like the ideas of those songs, but they didn't really come to full fruition, and it wasn't as heavy as what Kiss would be.
Do you have the box set?
I do have the box set. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, there's a couple of tracks on there, and you can tell they actually recorded that at the same studio as the first album, and you can really hear the similarity when you hear them, especially in the box set.
Right.
Because the first Kiss album, the production is very, very light. It's very clean sounding.
Right. Wasn't the cover for the Wicked Lester album, wasn't it used by another band? I want to say.
Yeah, it was called Laughing Dogs. I think they only had one album out, but
Okay,
yeah, it was
yeah.
reused.
So, I watch early, and I've watched early because I have the Kissology DVDs.
Mhm.
Yeah, me too.
Watching their early performances, I mean, they were just amazing. I mean, just even from the beginning, their stage show and just the way they commanded the stage. I mean, nobody looked like Kiss. Nobody sounded really like Kiss at that time. So maybe we can kind of go into the first album here and we'll each kind of talk about it. Maybe some of our favorite songs or memories we have about the first album. So, I don't know who wants to go first here, but
I guess I'll jump in first here.
yeah.
Well, honestly, the debut never really clicked with me, and then I kind of dug back into it the other night. I guess I never really gave it much of a chance, and then just kind of sitting back and taking it in last night really kind of opened my eyes or ears to the different sounds on there. I didn't realize it was as gritty as it was. It was just like dirty and gritty sounding, Ace's guitar, just like on Hotter Than Hell. I guess the standouts for me would be like Strutter. Firehouse is probably my favorite song on there. Deuce, definitely, mainly because Overkill covers it on Coverkill. I guess the only complaints I would have about this album is the love theme from Kiss. That instrumental seems like it just kind of doesn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, what is the history behind that song? Why is that
I
on?
have no idea. I don't know.
It used to be called Albatross.
Oh,
And it down, and it was on a box set, the version Albatross, and it was an older thing they did. I really like it, actually. I love instrumentals, so.
yeah, I dig it too. Yeah, and you're right. So it's on that box set.
Mm-hmm.
Was it called Acrobat, not Albatross?
Yeah, you're right. Albatross is what they were going to call themselves for one point. You're right. It's
Yeah.
Okay.
That and Crimson Harpoon.
Wait, they were going to be called
other,
Crimson Harpoon?
Yep. Kind of.
I didn't realize that.
That would have been a weird.
Thing I guess I would say I kind of have a problem with is the back half of Black Diamond, where it just kind of slows down. I guess that I feel like that last 2 minutes is kind of wasted. That could have been a great 3.5 minute song, but instead it's over 5 minutes, and it's just that back half of that song just kind of, where it just slows down.
Oh yeah, they keep slowing down the tape.
Wasted. Yeah.
But that is really cool live when they have all the stuff going off during that. I really like
I'm
that.
guessing that's why they did that.
Yeah. It's probably a live thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But
So,
otherwise, I think it's really a near perfect album, aside from those two gripes I had, and I've really grown to like it a lot more. So,
nice. Aaron, come on in here, buddy.
Yep.
What do you want to say?
Well, Strutter is actually my favorite Kiss song. So it starts off with my favorite.
Nice.
I love all of them, though, but that's what there's just so many great songs on it. I have both versions. This one here is the original without Kissin' Time, and I actually like the flow of it better. And Kissin' Time is good for what it is. I like the tri vocals, 3 of them singing different parts. That's kind of cool. But it was kind of they didn't even want to do that song. So
wasn't it written for like literally a kissing contest or something like
yes, for a radio station kissing contest, and the producers told them it was just
It's actually a cover.
Oh,
it's actually a cover. Yeah, it came out in the 50s. I forgot who did the original.
Yeah, me too. But it's a cover.
I think they may have,
well, let me check the liner notes.
Is it Bobby Darin or is it somebody else?
And yeah, of course, Deuce is amazing.
Yeah.
And Start Live, but I really like. I like every song on it, but this is hard to read this damn thing.
Yeah, the
100,000 Years, one of my favorite. Love 100,000 Years.
The names after Kissing Time say Man and Low. I don't know. It's not
very manly.
I forgot who the original artist was. I thought it might have been Bobby Darin, but I'm not certain.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't realize that. Yeah, I mean, I almost feel like, it's like Kiss, I mean, the first album is almost like a greatest hits, pretty much. I mean, anytime you go see Kiss, they're gonna play Strutter, they're gonna play Firehouse, they're gonna play Cold Gin, they're gonna play Deuce, they're gonna play 100,000 Years, they're gonna play Black Diamond. I mean, it was like, every song was killer. And, I agree with you, Aaron. I like that love theme from Kiss. I think it's pretty cool. I'd love to hear the album without Kissin' Time just to see how the flow was.
It's just a little better because the Deuce is so good to start out aside instead of Kissing Time. It just it's more powerful.
And I think, what I always thought was funny about Kiss is that, especially while this album came out in 1974, if you like nowadays, we're not really, sorry about the glare, we're not really, in shock or awe when we see something like this nowadays. But in 1974, this probably would have been a little, like, wow, who the hell are these guys? I mean, I know Alice Cooper was kind of doing some stuff too, but, when you look at this, you're thinking, yeah, this is going to be really heavy, but Kiss is basically just like a hard rock band. I mean, some of their stuff, I mean, even like Love Theme from Kiss, it's sort of, it's melodic. It's not as heavy as you think it would be. I mean, they definitely have some heavy parts, but they're basically just a hard rock band. I think their image, in the beginning was probably heavier than their actual sound. I mean, I think their live concerts obviously were probably heavier, but
yeah.
I don't know, Pete, what do you think?
Well, I mean, my history of this album is I got first on cassette in the 80s. So by then, I think I probably had most of the other ones. So for me, it's obviously prefer like the Alive versions, for the most part.
Right.
And like Strutter, for example, I was used to Strutter 78 off of Double Platinum.
Oh, yeah.
So like the studio version of Strutter on here sounded odd to me, And like Kissin' Time, though, you could tell that was recorded during the Hotter Than Hell sessions because the production sounds exactly the same as Hotter Than Hell. They must have already been recording Hotter Than Hell when they recorded that and stuck that on here.
Right.
Because it sounds totally different than the rest of the album. But like you said, at the time, yeah, there was, in the US, there really wasn't the equivalent of Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, who else? Black Sabbath. There was Alice Cooper,
right,
and Mountain, and Ted Nugent, Blue Oyster Cult. Those bands hadn't come out yet,
right.
So, when Kiss first came out, they were really more part of like the glam New York scene. Their contemporaries were like the New York Dolls and some of those other. I even think they played some shows with the Stooges early on. Maybe I'm wrong with that, but so they were part of that scene actually first, and then by 1976 they moved to the sort of the hard rock world. So this first era with the first three albums is almost like a totally different band than like the over the top Super Kiss that like we grew up with knowing.
Right.
If you were a fan of the band, during 74, 75, they were really more of an underground band. They weren't this huge band, but the sound of the first album is just kind of flat for me. Obviously, in concert they were much heavier, but
yeah,
I do like it overall. Let Me Know is a cool song. I think it's one of the first songs Paul Stanley ever wrote, even pre Wicked Lester, from what I read.
I remember that from that.
So you think the production's a little too clean on the first album then?
Yeah, and that's why I read when they went to Hotter Than Hell, it's the same producers. They did something to dirty up the tape, which really ended up with horrible production on Hotter Than Hell. But I have to say, like, overall, like, besides Hotter Than Hell, the first three I don't really go to as much because I prefer overall the Alive versions.
I'm the opposite.
Yeah,
like
my favorite Kiss album. Yeah, I mean, my favorite Kiss album is Love Gun, but that's just me. So, but yeah, kind of to piggyback on what you were saying, Pete, I think, there was, like you were saying, there was sort of like nothing like Kiss around that time. And I don't think they knew how to market them. I also don't think they knew who to book them with, because I was reading like they had some strange opening acts. Like they had like singer songwriters, or Kiss would open up for singer songwriters, or vice versa. And it was like they didn't know how to market them or book them at that time, which seems strange to me.
Yeah, I don't. Do you guys? Any of you have this book?
I had that book.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
It's
I was going to mention
basically from the beginning on right until Kiss Alive. So this whole book is just about the early years.
Okay.
So it describes all the, like we were saying, all the bands they opened for and who opened for them. And yeah, it was just whatever tour they could jump onto, because they got kicked off a lot of tours for their production, and they were blown. I know Queen had a big problem with them. They got kicked off because they were, they thought they were blowing them off the stage. Same thing with Black Sabbath.
that.
I'm sure they were.
They also played with Rush a lot back then for some reason. Then became friends with them, which is an odd.
Yeah, I always thought that was odd, but I watched that Rush documentary, and I remember Getty mentioning how good Kiss was to them in the beginning. But that always,
funny,
it's a strange pairing though, because you have Rush musicianship, and then I'm not saying that Kiss is not talented, but when you compare the musicianship of early Kiss to Rush, I mean, there's no comparison.
I mean, if you think about back in '74, Rush still had that like sort of Zeppelin Sabbath vibe going on. They hadn't really hit the whole prog rock thing.
Right.
So it kind of, it seems like an odd pairing now, but back then it probably was a pretty good choice.
Yeah. And what were you?
And there's a quote in this book from Paul Stanley where he says, when Neil Peart joined the band, he said something like, "Oh, these guys are going to go nowhere now."
Yeah.
They thought it was a big mistake replacing Don Rutsey with Neil Peart.
That's so funny. I love that first Rush album, by the way. I think it's great.
Oh yeah.
That's actually the only one I actually like a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a huge Rush fan. I like Rush a lot. I love Farewell to Kings. That's a great album too. But all right. Well, we're not talking about Rush. That'll be another video. Yeah. So does anybody else want to say anything about the debut or anything?
Before, my introduction, this is probably going to be funny, but my introduction to the first Kiss album, even though I had heard them about a decade before, the first song I ever heard was off of the Detroit Rock City movie, when they played Strutter, when he's going up on the stage to, at the strip club to dance, and they put on Strutter. That was my introduction to the first album.
That's a great movie. I love that movie.
Oh yeah.
I have the soundtrack for that too. There's like a cheesy ballad Peter sings on it. I can't remember the name of it.
Nothing Can Keep Me From You.
Yeah, it's
they were trying. It's the same woman that wrote "Don't Want to Miss a Thing" from Aerosmith. They were trying to jump on that thing.
Trying to cash in on that. Yeah. Maybe Paul should have had the guy who wrote with Forever.
Michael Bolton.
Yeah, maybe Paul should have pulled Michael Bolton back in for something. But, all right, so the debut comes out. I don't think anybody really gave a crap, but I don't think that it sold a lot. And I think they were obviously more popular live than they were on vinyl. And I think they, like you were saying, Pete, they couldn't like capture the sound of Kiss in that album. I mean, the songs were there.
I don't think there was, producing hard rock bands was really a thing, well-known producers knew how to do, what to do with,
Right. So we have this strange band, makeup, stage, some good songs, but I don't think it really caught on yet. So, who was because Kiss was obviously on Casablanca Records. Was it Neil Bogart, head of Casablanca?
Yeah.
Am I making stuff enough? Okay. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, because sometimes I say things and it's not right, and I pretend that I know what I'm talking about. So I think Neil Bogart was putting a lot of money into Kiss, and it wasn't really going anywhere. So now we come to Hotter Than Hell, which was released the same year, 1974.
Right. So
Yeah.
from what I heard, the first album actually did sell like 100,000 copies when it first
Well,
came
see,
out.
here
Which
I
is
am.
not,
I'm saying stuff that's not true already, right? So,
it's not terrible, but I think it actually charted and everything. I don't think they made money from it, and I don't think they still were making money on the road yet. So, the record company wanted them to put out an album fairly quickly, I guess.
right. So we get Hotter Than Hell, which, I'm looking at the track list here. Got to Choose, Parasite, Going Blind, Hotter Than Hell, Let Me Go, Rock and Roll, All the Way, Watching You, Mainline, Coming Home, Strange Ways. The first thing that kind of screams out at me, I feel like the album is all over the place. You've got a lot of different styles of music on this. I think the debut was more streamlined. I mean, take away Love Theme from Kiss and Kissin' Time, and some of the albums didn't even have Kissin' Time on, but I think that the debut was more streamlined, songwriting wise. I like Hotter Than Hell, but it seems like it's sort of all over the place style wise. I don't know what you guys want to talk about with that.
I like that about it though, because that's a heavy Parasite, Watching You, and then then Strange Ways is my favorite on there. I love that song.
Didn't Ace write Parasite?
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Strange Ways.
Mm-hmm.
Strange Ways is freaking heavy.
Yeah.
That's one of his best solos ever.
Exactly. That's my favorite Ace solo, actually. I love that solo.
That's one of mine too.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the title for Coming Home, and I had to listen to it again because the song I couldn't remember how the song went. And then I remembered, didn't they do an acoustic version of that on
first song?
Unplugged was the first time they ever gave attention to it, but I actually prefer that version to the Hell version myself. Yeah. But overall, to me, I guess I'll go first. I'm sorry, Aaron. You want to finish? Or?
Nope. I'm good.
Well, to me, like Chris, you were saying with the music didn't live up to their image as far as heaviness.
Yeah.
And I think they've only done that twice, really. And one was Hotter Than Hell. The other was Creatures of the Night. So.
You mean heavy?
Hotter Than Hell is one of my favorites from them. I think, for the casual fan, out of the first three, it's definitely the one you need because, Strange Ways and some of these other songs are not on Kiss Alive.
Yeah, I mean, they don't do All the Way. They don't do...
Right. Yeah, and Coming Home. Yeah. But yeah, the production's horrible. I don't know if you guys have double platinum, but the remixed Hotter Than Hell and Let Me Go Rock and Roll on there. Whoever did the remix, they sound great. I wish they had remixed the whole album. You know.
Now, Pete, just show the photos on the album because they're kind of racy.
Right, and I was just going to ask you guys, do you know if Gene ever wore this costume again? I've never seen another photo of that.
Was Peter Criss married to that woman?
No.
I'm just kidding.
But there's if you look online, there's tons of other photos from this photo session.
Oh,
it's one of the few times Paul got really drunk. Hey, I don't know if you guys have any of the German pressings.
Oh, look
at
the
you. Altered logo.
Yes, Pete. I have all the German pressings. I don't have.
I always thought that logo looked cool. I don't know.
The German pressing I have is of Unmasked.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's.
I guess
I love that.
Killers too. That's really good.
Killers, I have that.
I've got
Unmasked is great. And the back photo looks like a circus almost. That they kind of put all the makeup together on that back picture.
Yeah, I always thought that was cool.
Yeah,
that they did that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. Looking at these songs, I agree with you. The production it's dirty, but I think that kind of adds to the album. And I love opening with "Got to Choose." I love that little falsetto thing that Paul does in that song. I mean, "Going Blind,"
Yeah.
classic.
Oh, that's another one that's not on live. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, I'm a huge Peter Criss fan, and Mainline is a great song.
Hmm.
Straight up rock and roll. So yeah, I mean, I kind of like the diversity of it, and Watching You is great too. Yeah, it's another
Yeah.
album. I think unfortunately it was like I don't people it was almost like people weren't ready for it maybe. They connected obviously they hadn't connected the live Kiss to studio Kiss yet. So,
Yeah, and I think when this came out, it actually did worse than the first album sales wise.
right.
Even though "Let Me Go Rock and Roll" was a single, I don't think it did anything anywhere.
I mean,
And
imagine if
for
there
the
was
record, I think
I'm sorry, what are you gonna say?
there was what
No,
I was going to say. For me, "Let Me Go Rock and Roll," like if you listen to Kiss Alive, "Let Me Go Rock and Roll" was like the final encore. That was like the bigger song back then,
Right.
kind of,
right.
you know. So to me, that's like such a better live song. And never since Kiss Alive have Kiss ever played that in the encore. They've always played it like, fourth or fifth in the set.
Right.
Like they never do that long version like they do on Kiss Alive at the end of the show. I wish they would bring that back like that.
And I was going to say, can you imagine if there was like YouTube back then? Because people would have been filming the Kiss shows and it was all over YouTube, and then they would have been big from the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, but there was no way to see Kiss unless you actually went to go see them. That was the thing. Or maybe your friend said, "Oh, you got to go check this band out, Kiss. They're amazing. Like the drum rises up in the air, and there's fire and smoke coming out of guitars and stuff." But yeah.
But you guys have seen the Winterland show on the Kissology, right? The black and white.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yep.
One of my favorite.
Yeah, that's an awesome show. Yeah, I prefer them then. I mean, they were so much like just aggressive and scarier,
Yeah, I mean, Gene was really scary back then. Well, plus he was really thin, so like he just like
Yeah.
he looked like a demon. I mean, he just totally. Am I hearing something?
I was first introduced to that from Kiss Exposed.
Okay.
That
Yeah, I've had it on VHS since like the 80s, a copy of that.
Exposed.
No, the actual show, the Winterland.
Cool.
There used to be this cool flea market by me, and this guy, I don't know how he had some link to some warehouse that Kiss had in New York, where he got. You ever hear of Kiss Visions? They
No.
put out all the bootlegs in the 80s. He was connected to them somehow, but anyway, I had all these shows on VHS back in the 80s because this guy was somehow connected to this warehouse that Kiss didn't pay rent on, and some guy got all the stuff out of it, and apparently there was all this footage in there. That's basically the only shows that people have seen, really same ones.
Oh.
But yeah, when Kiss Exposed came out, that's when most people, the first time they were able to see the old footage.
I watched that 1,000,000 times back in the 80s.
Did you? I don't know, Ron and Aaron. Did you guys have anything else you want to say, maybe about Hotter Than Hell?
Yeah, it's kind of my favorite 70s era Kiss album. When I first listened to this album, first time I heard "Got to Choose," I hated it, mainly because of the Paul Stanley's falsetto thing in there. But every time I've listened to it since, I loved it.
It's a great song. Yeah.
Yeah, Parasite. I was introduced to that from the Anthrax cover when Anthrax did the Attack of the Killer Bees album.
Mm-hmm.
When I finally heard this as a whole, I love just how poorly produced it is. I love the dirt, the grit that it's got to it. So I like it even more than the first album, just top to bottom. I forget who mentioned Pete. I think you mentioned "Strange Ways." The last song, just phenomenal song. But Parasite, Going Blind, and Strange Ways are probably the standout tracks for me.
I never get tired of that Parasite riff.
Yeah.
It's just great.
Yeah.
Aaron, I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to say.
It's funny too because after say once Destroyer came out, they really didn't play most of the songs from the first 3 albums anymore. Like
Why
they
that
didn't even
is?
play. I think it's probably because maybe it was too heavy, or I don't know. I guess they were gearing it to more the arena rock
Right.
stuff,
The
but like
Destroyer fan.
Parasite, was never played after 75. I think Deuce they actually only played on Destroyer. They never played it again until like Hot in the Shade. If maybe I'm wrong about that, but pretty sure they didn't play Deuce.
They opened
What's
up
that?
Crazy Nights tour, Deuce. When I
Oh
saw
yeah,
them.
you're right. The second half of the Crazy Nights tour, they brought back Deuce, but really none of the other 70s tours they like played Deuce or some of these other songs.
Yeah, Aaron, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to say about Hotter Than Hell.
Just one little observation, and it's on the cover here. If you notice, Ace Frehley, actually half his face is airbrushed.
Oh,
Because
really?
he was in a car wreck right before this.
Oh, crap.
Yeah, I've seen those pictures where they show half his faces.
Yeah, so it's like half it's airbrushed on there. It's kind of interesting.
And what's the Japanese connection with the album?
They were really popular in Japan first.
Well, actually, that's a myth. That was a marketing thing from Bill Aucoin. He wanted to make it seem like they were big in Japan.
Okay.
And actually, it's funny because when I was a little kid, when I would see this album, I actually thought it was like a live album or something.
Right.
So maybe, I don't know. I guess he wanted to make it seem like that they were big in Japan. Or
I mean, it would make sense with the kabuki style makeup and things like that,
Yeah.
But all right, so we've got the debut comes out in 1974. Hotter Than Hell comes out in 1974. I don't know. I mean, did Hotter Than Hell sell? I'm assuming it probably sold less than the debut.
Yeah, it did worse than the first Kiss album.
Okay, yeah, because I don't think there was probably. I'm looking at the track listing here. I mean, obviously they released some singles from the album. Was Parasite released as a single or?
Let Me Go Rock and Roll, I think, was the only single.
Okay.
And again, I don't think it did anything, which is surprising that it didn't get on like rock radio or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously Casablanca Records is like, okay, what are we going to do with these guys? They just keep coming out, with these albums. Nobody's really, I mean, there is some attention, but not as much as I think they were hoping for, obviously. And then, Dress to Kill comes out in 1975, a year later. And, of course, Dress to Kill has Rock and Roll All Night on it. And, what was the story behind that song? I thought I read that, obviously Kiss wanted to write a hit, obviously. And wasn't it a pairing of 2 songs? Like it was a Gene song and a Paul song that were put together? One of them wrote the chorus and one wrote the verse. I don't know. I thought I read that song.
Wrote it. I think they definitely wrote it together on the road. It's one of the few songs they've actually written together.
I thought one of them wrote the chorus. And...
Strutter is the one you're talking about where...
Oh, is it? Okay.
The main guitar riff is a song from Gene, I think, and then the rest of it was Paul.
Right.
But I think Rock and Roll All Night, they pretty much decided they need an anthem, or Bill Aucoin told them to write an anthem or something.
Right.
So they came up with that. But Hotter Than Hell did so bad that Neil Bogart insisted that he produced the album, actually. So
I always loved that cover too.
He was known for producing a lot of those bubblegum late 60s, early 70s hits.
Right.
So he thought maybe he could production-wise help them get a hit. Which from what I read, like Rock and Roll All Night technically wasn't a hit until Alive came out, the live version.
Right.
But I think the studio version must have been somewhat of a hit in Detroit because they were playing like Cobo Hall by then, and
right.
I think Come On and Love Me was a minor hit as well.
I love that song.
That's one of my favorite all-time Kiss songs, but I guess I'll go first. this probably like I don't listen to this album too much because the other songs to me, like Two Timer, Ladies in Waiting, Getaway, Anything for My Baby, they're just like okay for me. I know this album, like in the last 10, 15 years, a lot of people said that this is like one of the best Kiss albums. I mean, production wise, I like it. It's real crisp sounding, and but overall, it's not one I listen to like a lot. I prefer overall the live versions of these songs pretty much.
Aaron, you look like you want to say something here, brother. You're
I
like,
actually like those songs. Yeah, this has a couple of my very favorite Kiss songs. Rock Bottom, of course. I love Rock Bottom, the guitar intro, and it was really freaked me out when it was combined with She, which is another one of my favorites.
Mhm.
She is one of my very favorite
On
songs.
double platinum.
Yeah, and I really like that Anthrax covered 2 songs off this one. She and Love Her All I Can, when Gene and Paul sing on the chorus with it, that's really killer. And then
Yeah.
I think She was a Wicked Lester song, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was.
She and Love Her All I Can were, yeah.
Okay.
That's the thing. They didn't have enough songs, so they went back to those 2 from Wicked Lester. And to me, the other Gene songs are just like, he was really scraping the bottom of the barrel at this point. Two Timer and like Ladies in Waiting. I don't know.
I love those songs.
Those are
I do.
Two Timer is like a little earworm. It's I like that tune.
Yeah, I do too. I love it. But I'm just a freak over these first 3 records. I like every song on them. So.
Well, here's the thing too.
Don't get me wrong. I like them. To me, it's not as good as an album as other people portray it to be. Maybe, I don't know.
I mean, here's the thing too. Like, none of us we don't listen to Kiss for the lyrical, it's not like their lyrics are, going to expand your mind at all or whatever. It's basically, what you're going to get with Kiss. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't think I pull this album out as much either. I mean, out of the 3, I would pick the debut or Hotter Than Hell over this album. I mean, again, but looking at it though, I love Come On and Love Me. That's
one of my favorite all time.
I mean,
and that's another one that didn't get played after Dress to Kill tour.
I don't need to hear Rock and Roll All Night ever again. Although I love the song. Rock Service, Two Timer. I mean, those are great. What song does Peter Criss sing on here again?
Getaway.
Getaway.
That was written by Ace.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
That's it's heaviest. It's good.
Yeah. So Aaron, is this your favorite out of the 3?
I like them all. When I was ranking them, I had 1 and Hotter Than Hell, the 1 and 2 of that year, and it was really hard because I like Hotter Than Hell. I had that, and I was flipping back and forth. I like them all about equally, actually. I think they're all masterpieces to me. There's certain songs like Rock Bottom, She, and just blow my mind every time I hear it. Oh, Love Her All I Can. And I keep saying the same. And the funny thing is, I actually heard Anything for My Baby on an AM radio station back in the 80s. It was kind of strange hearing on with all these AM songs. But I'd have to go with the Hotter Than Hell, maybe, even though I ranked it lower than the other one.
And say what you want about Kiss's songs, but they had a knack for writing just catchy songs. I mean, Paul Stanley is a songsmith. I mean, he's amazing at what he does. He knows how to.
Yeah. Their image immediately turned the critics off. They didn't even listen to them. You could take any other American band at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, any hard rock band, say, and how could you say any of them were musically better than Kiss?
Well, and here's an example
Like
of songwriting. Like, my mom is not a Kiss fan, but when she heard Rock and Roll All Night, she loved that song. So it's one of those songs that sort of transcended age groups and everything. I mean, Kiss knew how to write anthemic songs from the beginning.
I always called them the Hard Rock Beatles.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, you're right, because all four of them, well, Ace wasn't singing at this point, but
He did later though. But yeah.
right. But you're
He
right.
was writing
Yeah.
songs though.
Right. They should have had Ace singing from the beginning, even though I'm not a huge Ace. I'm not really a big fan of his voice, but I think it would have been cool to have him singing on a couple of the albums, the songs.
I think it would be cool if he sang Coltrane because when his solo band, he always sings it live. I think he does a good job with it.
Yeah.
Let's not forget Ace's guitar riffs as well, too. I mean, everybody
Amazing.
talks Gene and Paul, but Ace's guitar riffs, his licks are they're very memorable, very catchy. Just great stuff. This is actually my least favorite by a landslide of the first three. But it's funny, Pete mentioned those songs, just like when Aaron was smiling. Rock Bottom, Two Timer, and She were, for me, the standout tracks. I always thought Rock and Roll All Night was kind of like, the story behind that was kind of like what they did with Warrant and Cherry Pie, where they pretty much had the album written, and then the record company came to them, or somebody came to them and needed the single because they didn't hear the single. And I always thought that was like the song that was written just to kind of give them, the satisfaction of a single.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think they were definitely under pressure.
I don't know when it was
to
written.
get a single out there somehow.
Yeah.
But so Pete, were you saying, so obviously did Rock and Roll All Night do anything as a single for them prior?
The studio version, I think it was just like a regional hit, like in Detroit, probably. They were already playing like Cobo Hall.
Yeah.
But then like in other areas, they were still playing small theaters. So I'm sure in Detroit, places like that, the Midwest, it might have been a regional hit.
Right.
But once Kiss Alive came out, they became a huge band. I don't know if Rock and Roll All Night Live was a big hit before Kiss Alive. The album was a big hit though. I think from what it seems like, as soon as that live album came out, it just sold immediately. And like it almost like Rock and Roll All Night became a hit after the album came out, as opposed to vice versa.
Probably.
And
like the
okay,
versions
so
I always heard on the radio was the live version of Rock and Roll All Night. So it probably blew up after a live one was already out.
and I guess we're already talking
and by
about
then,
we're already talking about Alive, so we might as well just mention it. Like, what was it about Alive that suddenly everybody was now into Kiss? Was it just that there was like, you could hear crowd noise behind the band, or that the songs were more, they were, bigger live, or what was it about that live album that it was like, oh my God, Kiss is amazing? I'm just asking.
Number one, it's not really live except for Peter's drums.
Right.
So
Live.
I don't know if you have any bootlegs from that era. But Kiss does not sound like they do on Kiss Alive at all. They're really sloppy. Alive 2 is definitely more like the way they sounded like during the Love Gun tour. But Kiss Alive is almost like a brand new re-recorded version of all of these songs.
Right.
So I think it just enhanced everything. And maybe, I don't know the history as far as how long it took for Kiss Alive to become a hit, but maybe like these rock stations were just playing tracks from it and it caught on somehow.
Yeah.
Man, that drum solo too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, speaking of drum solos, did you ever hear that Peter Criss left the band during the recording of Hotter Than Hell because he wanted like a 10-minute solo in the middle of Strange Ways?
Yeah.
And then, so they had him record it, and they actually didn't record it, and they just told him something happened to the tape or something.
I've heard that. Yeah.
That is so funny. Yeah. So, like you were saying though, Aaron, these first three albums, like to come out with these three albums in like, less than 2 years is, it's pretty amazing. There's a lot of hits there. Obviously there's a lot of songs that they, still play live, and and for the most part, it was kind of flying under the radar. Not a lot of people at that point didn't know too much about Kiss until Alive, and then suddenly Kiss was like, oh my God, no, we're huge, and then Destroyer came out.
To me, it's crazy that like a lot of the Alice Cooper fans weren't really Kiss fans, because Alice Cooper was at his peak in '74 as far as popularity.
Right.
I thought,
what
I
what
don't
Alice
know.
Cooper what Alice Cooper album was around, and like what was the '74 album? Was that?
I think it's $1 Billion Babies.
Okay.
Was because there's a story about Ace and Paul going to see Alice around $1 Billion Babies. I think maybe that was '73, and that's where they really decided that they wanted to have a big stage show and everything.
Right. And yeah, I mean, maybe our next video should be about Unmasked.
I love Unmasked.
I love
was
the
thinking,
album.
yeah, or how about we do Dynasty and Unmasked, '79 through '80?
Hey, yeah. I mean, I'll say it right now. I love Dynasty as well.
77 to 80. This book is pretty cool.
Oh, cool.
There you go.
Kind of a weird,
I like
weird
talking
era.
about '79 through '82 because that whole era is so like mysterious. Like
I love
there's
that.
so
era.
much stuff that went on that
Uh-huh.
never
Yeah,
like
'cause I
got
mean-
released.
Yeah, because you figure what? After Alive, they had Destroyer, which was like, bombastic and huge and whatever. And
Right.
they kind of lost a lot of their, the heaviness, like you were saying.
Rock and Roll Over, though.
Rock and Roll Over. Yeah. Wasn't that recorded in like an aircraft hangar or something like that, I want to say?
I think it was recorded. Part of it was recorded in the Capitol Theater in New Jersey, I believe.
Okay.
That's why it
Saying
sounds
stuff, and I might be just making stuff up. But you know what? I really don't care. So, and then of course after Rock and Roll Over was Love Gun, right?
Yep.
Which is my favorite Kiss album. Then Alive 2, correct?
Yeah, but the studio side I love.
Right.
Right.
And then the solo albums.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I agree with you, Pete. I think that Dynasty, Unmasked, The Elder, and then into Creatures of the Night, that was interesting. Creatures, I mean. That was an interesting time period. So that might be
I mean, when you think about it, I mean, the original band only played through Love Gun. Like all
Right.
4 members, say.
right. Yeah, because then you had people.
By the time they got to Dynasty, Peter didn't even play anything except Dirty Living.
right.
And
Which is a great song.
by the time they got to Unmasked, we can talk about this on the next video, but by the time they got to Unmasked, it's basically like 3 sets of solo songs. Gene's, Paul's, and Ace's. None of them play on each other's tracks except the, background vocals.
Okay, everybody stop talking about
So
it.
they're not
This is
even
our
really-
next video. No.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, listen.
Trail here.
What are you going to say?
I think the people that were listening to Alice Cooper weren't really listening to Kiss because the people that were listening to this band were listening to Kiss. And I think Kiss owes more than a nod to their sound from Slade, right down to the name of the first album, the live album.
Wow.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Listen,
Gene
Yeah, they
Simmons
were-
said that too.
you
They
can
were
really
big Slade
Kiss.
and they were big fans of The Move.
Mhm.
Sort of like ELO before they became ELO. I think they ripped off a lot of stuff from them too.
Well, I mean, Zeppelin ripped off a lot of blues riffs, so. Right. Oh, well, I digress. Anywho, I think that was good. I mean, we've reached, we've been talking about this for about an hour, and there's probably nobody watching anymore. But, I think the bottom
Oh,
line.
this was live, or
No, I'm recording it, but I'm gonna post it so it'll seem live.
oh, okay.
This is kind of like Alive, Kiss Alive. We're working the studio magic. I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna take 10 pounds off of my weight and make myself look, younger. And we're gonna airbrush everybody. So, no, but I mean, I think it's probably a good place to stop. And you know, bottom line, these first three albums are great. Lots of great songs that they still play live today. You know, I think it was definitely that beginning. There was nothing that sounded quite like these three albums after that, because I think after Alive, of course, we talked about Destroyer. Then I think things changed for them. They became huge at that point. And it wasn't a bad thing. It was just that their sound sort of changed. But we'll get into that in the next video. So anybody else want to say anything else?
No, I just can't wait to get to the 82 to 85 era, my favorite era.
Right. Definitely. Well, everybody, thank you for watching, and thanks for listening to us ramble about Kiss. And definitely check out, you know, all these gentlemen's channels. We are all members of the VC, and if you watch the VC, you probably see a lot of us on there anyways. So have a great night, have a great morning whenever you're watching this, and adios.
See ya.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.